Hey everybody, Dirili here. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Hakuoki Kyoto Wins. We are on Hajime Saito's route, and I think this episode will at the very least be his good continuation ending, which could be coming up soon, and if there's enough room we'll include the tragic love and bad endings, but as usual that remains to be seen, so let's check it out. You can just sit back, relax, and let me read you a story. That was when Saito finally spoke.
Commander, there's something I need to tell you. What?
Saito looked straight into the commander's eyes and spoke in a calm, level voice.
I drank the water of life. I am now a fury. What?
Every face in the room turned to Saito, shocked.
Why the hell did you do that? I had no choice, but I do not regret my decision.
Hijikata was silent for several moments.
You too, huh?
That was all he said.
You made an excellent decision, Saito. Welcome to the fold. Done catching up. Good. Get your stuff together. Looks like we're being put out on a boat for Edo.
What? Why Edo?
We're not going to hold a castle with Lord Yoshinobu here.
Their faces fell when I spoke.
Our Supreme Commander in his infinite wisdom has abandoned his men and left them to fight and die on his behalf. He ran to Edo a while ago. Just about lost my crap when we heard that. I mean, come on. Have you ever heard of a war where the guy who started it just runs away as soon as people start fighting? Sure makes our future an exciting place though, doesn't it?
Oh no. Inoue had died, and Yamazaki had been wounded. Though they were the only ones I knew, I had little doubt that many other men had fought for the shogun and been wounded or died. And instead of staying to support his army, he'd abandoned them to their fate and been the first to run to safety in Edo? It was awful.
The shogun abandoned us. I figure he's got his reasons.
He's a coward?
Politics isn't our problem. All we need to do is fight with honor. Yes, you're right.
He nodded, his face as placid as ever, but in his eyes I could see defeat and despair. We need to begin preparing for our return to Edo, but all the warriors seemed dejected, slumped by the heaviness of our defeat. Saito, of course, wasn't safe from this dejection. Saito? I stopped myself for a second, but decided to approach him. However, he kept his eyes fixed on his tatami mat, not even acknowledging me. Saito! I called out to him once more, and all of a sudden he snapped out of his concentration, and he shot a glance toward me.
Pardon me, I was lost in thought. As the commander stated earlier, our leaders have their reasons, so all we can do is abide by their word at the moment. Firstly, let us count the number of casualties. They're surely short-handed at the moment.
Saito didn't seem to believe his own words, and his tone lacked any luster or emotion. I couldn't really blame him, though. He and the other Shinsengumi captains had risked their lives to uphold the shogunate flag in battle, and Lord Yoshinobu just gave up. To think our Supreme Commander could even think to abandon his men and his army.
What are you still doing here? The injured are being brought out as we wait. You have medical experience. If you hurry, I'm certain you'll be of use. Go check on them.
Saito seemed eager for me to leave, but I just stood there, looking back at him, and instead of leaving, I asked him a question. Saito? What's going to happen to the Shinsengumi?
What do you mean by that?
Saito was clearly annoyed, throwing another question at me. Seeing the coldness of his response made me flinch a little. But I thought it was an important question to ask, so I did what I thought was necessary to help my anxieties. Lord Yoshinobu has abandoned us, right? So, if we follow him back to Edo, what will happen then? Does his retreat mean that the shogunate has no further plans to fight against the Satsuma or Choshu troops?
Well, nothing has been determined as of yet. Perhaps he's looking to regroup, as there are more soldiers at his disposal in Edo. Being concerned about such matters is futile.
But...
As I have stated, many of the injured are being carried out of here to board the ship. What is most important at the moment is helping the injured and departing for Edo. If there are those who are in need of our assistance, then we must do what we can to help them. There is no time for any other distractions.
His words came at me quickly and aggressively, and it made me think something was off. Even when he seemed agitated or things were hectic, Saito always found time to speak with me or answer my questions. But today, he was completely flippant, looking as though he were trying to avoid talking to me altogether. How should I answer? I understand. I will bother you no further. I understand. I'll help, Saito. There was so much to worry about. But now wasn't the time to stress about it. Our tasks were beginning to pile up, and many people were depending on us. Then, I shouldn't be overly concerned about what could be, and just focus on the present.
That's the spirit. Now let us go.
His tone seemed to perk up, even just a tad, and he bowed his head. When I looked at Saito's back, his posture seemed so broken. I stopped to call out for him. Ever since I lost contact with my father, I'd felt so lonely and full of worry. But I thought that my worry would do me no good, so I made the decision to come to Kyoto myself to search for him. So, I may not know exactly what you're feeling or how you're dealing with those feelings, but in the end, I think what's important is to trust those feelings and act on them. Saito stopped in his tracks, and he seemed to twitch a bit. Soon, he turned around to face me. Just a second ago, his eyes seemed dead, but it appears they've been reignited with purpose. He looked at me sternly.
Let's go.
Have I motivated him? His words were curt, but it felt like a sense of determination had returned to Saito. I'm such a great motivational speaker. As the two of us were leaving the castle, he turned around once more, sadness resting in his face. Are you all right? I asked him softly, but he gave me no answer. After a pause, he wiped the cold sweat from his brow, and he looked into my eyes.
All good. Let's continue.
His voice was resolute. Being out in the sun as a fury, from what I'd heard, was quite painful. If you start feeling sick, then maybe you should rest until evening? I made a timid suggestion, but Saito quietly looked back at me and muttered,
Your words from earlier enlightened me.
Huh? The suddenness of his statement caught me off guard, and I stared, confused at him. He turned to face his feet, and his tone seemed almost self-deprecating.
No matter what Lord Yoshinobu does, as his servants we have no right to stray from our duties or question his motives. I am not sure what caused him to waver.
Saito looked at me sheepishly, as if he were embarrassed by his own doubts earlier. Seeing his reaction made me realize something. All this time, Saito had worked to let his doubts and worries never get the best of him. But I wasn't the only person who felt those doubts. Saito this whole time was also anxious. I mean, he never showed any sign of worry when he was ordered to spy on the guard, or when he drank the water of life. He just totally has the ultimate poker face. In my heart somehow, I just assumed that he was impervious to worry, and that he always got the better of his emotions. Then he looked longingly into my eyes.
The future of both the shogunate and the Shinsengumi are plagued by uncertainties. However, all of that will be discussed in Edo. Our future begins now. So, I feel for your concerns, but for now, do not let them conquer you. For now, we must uphold our responsibilities and leave for Edo, understood?
Yes. Saito turned back around to make his way to the dock, but his aura had completely changed. If I had done anything to improve Saito's mood, then nothing could make me happier. I was thrilled that, even just once, that I was able to give back to Saito. I know that Saito and the Shinsengumi will be able to find their purpose as we return to Edo. But, when we return to Edo, what awaits me? The whole reason I'd left Edo was for the purpose of finding my father. And I'm going back without meeting that purpose. Later that night, I couldn't bring myself to sleep. Tomorrow, the men of the Shinsengumi would be on their way aboard a ship to Edo. But what was to become of me? There were rumors floating around that my father was siding with the Satsuma Choshu troops, and now, on top of it, he was with Kazuma. I'm sure this is what Saito had reported to Hijikata when they spoke together. So technically, the Shinsengumi no longer had any obligation to look after me. I was running through all of these thoughts when I'd heard footsteps from outside my room. I wonder who it could be at this hour. Softly, I slid my door open to take a quick peek and see who it was.
Yukimura, are you still awake?
Saito!
The sea is harsh to those who do not sleep well. It's better to rest your body as much as possible.
Yes, I know that, but when we return to Edo, all of you will be on standby for the next battle, right?
That's right.
I felt nervous speaking, especially with what I'd wanted to say next, but... So am I not allowed to come along with you guys?
What?
I know I'm not really much use on the battlefield, and I can barely protect myself. Well, especially if we're up against Kazuma, then I stand no chance of protecting myself. And I know that the reason you let me stay with you all was because I was looking for my father. So, yeah, there's nothing really keeping you guys responsible for me anymore. Does that make me a burden?
Well, when it comes to actually fighting, I think you would be. You of all people should know.
His words were a lot harsher than I anticipated, and I could only hang my head. He was right. All I'd ever be was a burden if I couldn't fight, but still insisted to be by their side.
The Battle of Tomofushimi should have told you something. War isn't the same as it used to be.
Then give me a gun! Let me handle the gun in this all, at least.
Someone standing beside you today may very well become a corpse the next day. These are the kind of things you must anticipate. Even still, we who abide by the way of the sword are prepared to fight until our deaths. But you are not one of us. There is no reason for you to needlessly risk your life in proximity to these dangers.
Hearing Saito's words made me realize that, even if it hurt to say it, he puts my safety above almost anything. Saito wasn't necessarily the best person with words, but it still made my heart warm to hear it. I do have a reason, though. You saved my life, Saito, so I want to pay you back.
But I did so for my own purposes. You have no reason to feel like you owe me anything.
But I love you. That's not a good enough excuse. Would you be satisfied hearing it from my side if I had told you the same thing? Saito turned away, refusing to look at me as if he were dealing with a petulant child, from which I cannot wait to leave. It's like, shut up, kid. Eventually...
Excuse me.
Saito reached out for the kodachi on my hip, and without a word took it into his hands, sheathed. He gripped my kodachi tightly.
As I stated earlier, if you stay with us, you never know when you could be confronted with death. You are suggesting that you still want to come with us, knowing this to be the truth.
Yes. Saito looked into my eyes intently, gazing toward me with a quiet seriousness, and I gave a huge nod.
Then, take your kodachi. If you have the will, I hope you are truly ready for what it means to put your life on the line.
If I can be by your side, I do. Saito silently handed me back the kodachi, watching my movements as if he were still testing me. His eyes glimmered against the light, and he stared back at me while I gulped nervously.
Don't forget one thing, Chizuru Yukimura. The minute you take this kodachi, it will no longer treat you like a guest. You will embark on a path from which there is no turning back.
His eyes were stern, and they were staring at me with such intensity that I couldn't breathe. But I asked to stay, keeping all of this in mind. With this newfound resolve, I reached for my kodachi, and Saito smiled faintly.
I've accepted your resolve. I will no longer tell you to return to Edo. You follow us wherever we go.
Okay. Finally, you're listening to me. Although his expectations for me were huge, I felt warmth from his words, and I loosened up. During the 4 years in which the Shinsengumi had looked after me, I could never shake the thought of feeling like an outsider. But now, for the first time, I finally felt like I'd been accepted as one of them. I will follow the Shinsengumi wherever you guys go, and I'll be by your side the whole time, Saito. No matter what happens in the future, I have faith in everyone, including you, Saito.
I see.
He kept his response brief. but I could see the smile forming on Saito's lips. I wondered if he was even a little happy to hear that I was going to join them. I'm sure we'll be facing the Satsuma and Choshu, and even Kazuma when we return to Edo, but I felt like as long as I was with Saito, I'll be alright. I had a mysterious confidence well up in my heart, and I smiled back. And that's our continuation ending. I'm so disappointed that Idea Factory International didn't announce the Edo Blossoms release date, so I don't know if we're going to be even getting it this, late this year or not. I have no idea when they might be thinking of putting it out. So who knows when we'll get to hear the rest of the stories from these guys. But at least we should be getting them at some point. I can't see them totally dropping it. So yeah, once we get through these credits here, I'll take you to the tragic love ending and then the bad ending. Well, of course, we got our 3 sentences of epilogue after the credits here. I wish they would be a little bit more individual for those, but I guess I can understand why they're not. I love omake so much that I really like it when they're a little more well thought out and a little longer, so I always like it when they add more to the omakes, but at least they have something. Even if it's just a little something, at least it's something. And so here it is. January 1868. The Battle of Tobu-Fushimi ended with the Satsuma and Choshu victorious. As the shogunate troops retreated, the Shinsengumi headed toward Edo. 4 years ago, I came to Kyoto all by myself in search of my father and met the Shinsengumi. I'm going to leave the city of Kyoto, where I made fond memories with the Shinsengumi. Despite the defeat, his resolve didn't waver, and I have chosen to walk alongside him. We are going to head to Edo, without knowing what fate awaits us. The same as with all the other guys, unfortunately. Okay, and for our tragic love ending, we got to go to, of course, the record of service and down to Saito's December thingy. And go low romance. And skip until we come to our choices. And again, you could win, Saito! And here at our second choice, we have to... Well, we don't have to, but I'm going to save the games, because I can just come right back here to make the different choice for the bad ending. I will stop Saito again. And here's where our difference begins.
Yukimura, leave this all to me and return back to Osaka.
But...
When you're here beside me, I'm unable to fight with the strength necessary, so please go.
It was true that if I were here, there's nothing I could really do to be of assistance. I understand, but please, promise me one thing. You'll defeat Kazuma, and that you'll follow me back soon.
It would be wrong for me to make a promise that I do not know I can keep.
The fact he wasn't exactly confident in his answer must mean Saito is predicting this battle to be one he may not be able to walk away from. But if Saito ends up losing...
Hurry up, go. If you continue to stay here, then my attempts to buy this time have been in vain.
It wasn't that I wasn't worried for him, but I can't let his sacrifice go to waste. I turned around to the darkened forest pathway, the shadows of trees covering my way.
Trying to buy time for the female demon to escape, eh? How imprudent of you. So, you knew I was going to do so, and yet you let her go. You ask me why. Are you so thick-headed? I need no time at all in order to kill you off, and then catch up to my bride-to-be. I suppose I can decapitate you, and use your severed head as a wedding present to my wife. Do you truly believe I would just sit there as you attempt to cut my head off? Nope. That's where the fun in killing you comes in. Now, let's begin. Are you ready?
Despite my exhaustion from the running, I thrusted each leg forward, one after the other, against the mountain winds upon the darkened path. Even though I longed to be back there, beside Saito, I knew I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. I took no chances to look behind me, I just ran. Then, out of nowhere... I heard a rustle from the bush to my right, and I stopped running in my tracks. What could it be? Was it one of the Satsuma Choshu troops? Or could it be one of Kazuma's demon cohorts? I held my breath in my chest.
Someone's there. Who's there? I heard your footsteps.
That voice! Yamazaki, it's me, Yukimura. You're alive! Is he injured? He's not injured yet.
Yukimura, you're safe.
The sense of relief felt by the presence of Yamazaki nearly made me crumble to the floor.
I did not see Saito nearby. Were you not able to see him?
No. We were running together and Kazuma found us. Saito stayed behind so that I could escape.
What?
Yamazaki fell silent. For a moment we stood quietly as he gazed in the direction I ran from.
Saito and Kazuma are fighting that way.
And that's how Yamazaki's gonna get fatally wounded this time. Yes, why do you ask? Yamazaki, don't tell me you're... I had a bad feeling rising hotly in my chest.
If you continue down this path, you'll be able to return to Osaka Castle. Go on ahead to Osaka Castle. We'll follow suit.
What do you mean by we? Don't tell me you're going to leave and help Saito.
Although I may not be the best warrior to help him, it doesn't mean that I can just turn my back on a fellow comrade like Saito, who's fighting alone.
Yamazaki! Without another word, he turned his back to me, and he sprinted down the mountain path. What should I do now? Not only was Saito risking his life, but now Yamazaki as well. I wanted to run after him to help Saito too, but I couldn't distract myself. I gritted my teeth and stayed behind. Saito had stayed behind just to give me a chance to escape with Kazuma, so I need to hurry back to Osaka Castle as soon as possible. And I must spread the word of what just happened. Although it made me almost sick to my stomach, I continued down the path to Osaka Castle. I somehow managed to make my way through the forest safely to Osaka Castle in order to meet with the captains, but...
Saito's still not back yet, huh? Maybe the guy really had his work cut out for him this time against Kazuma. You idiot! Why the hell would you say that? It's bad luck. Yo, Saito drank the water of life. There's no way he's gonna lose to Kazuma.
Hijikata seemed to keep an optimistic expression, but even he couldn't help but sigh at the prospect.
Hijikata, the ship is almost set to sail. You need to make a call soon. I know. If he doesn't show up soon, then we can expect the worst.
I guess Yamazaki will come back soon with the news. Hearing Hijikata say what all of us were thinking out loud made my heart feel heavy. Maybe I shouldn't have left Saito alone back there. I shouldn't have left his side. Just then, the sliding door flew open. The person walking through the doorway was... Whoa, Saito! I thought it would be Yamazaki.
Saito, you're alive.
Oh god, don't tell me this is going to be another ending where he's going to send me away from the Shinsengumi to live in Edo by myself where Kazuma can easily come and pick me up again.
Yes.
Oh geez, what a relief. Of course there's no way Saito would be beaten so easily.
Commander, I apologize for being late. Don't worry, it's good enough to see you return safely. So, what happened with Kazuma? Does the fact that you're here mean you defeated him? I need to speak with you about this matter privately. May I have a moment of your time? Yup. The rest of you, prepare to leave. I'll call you all when we're done speaking. Alright, see you later.
I was packing my things in the room I had slept in the previous night. Just then...
There you are.
Saito!
Before I return to Edo, I wanted to tell you something. You have a moment?
Sure, what is it? I was nervous.
I discussed this with the commander earlier, but I don't think you should be involved with us any longer.
What? A black malaise had enshrouded my mind when those words came to his mouth. Each beat of my pounding heart was creaking, loose and unsure of how to process what he'd said. What do you mean?
The reason for your residence with us was our shared desire to locate Kyoto.
And the fact that you were keeping me safe from Kazuma.
But according to Amagiri, there is a high chance that Kyoto is cooperating with Kazuma. If he is cooperating with the enemy, we must kill Kyoto. I'm sure it would be a pain for you to be with us, knowing we would eventually have to kill him.
Yeah, it'll be even more of a pain if the demons take me and I'm living with Kazuma and my dad and all the rest of the demons when you come to kill my father. That'll be even worse. I could see this was an obvious decision for the Shinsengumi to make. I mean, more than anything, I knew that being with the Shinsengumi meant the demons coming after me. Why would they not come after you if you left the Shinsengumi? That makes no sense. So perhaps it would be best for me to separate from them as soon as possible.
You have any relatives or friends that can grant you safe refuge in Edo? If no one comes to mind, I can inform the commander so we may find someone to help you.
No. I could feel my throat constricting. Breathing became difficult and my head spun. I tried to take as deep a breath as I could, and I pretended to answer coolly back to him. You don't have to go through all that effort for me. I heard Dr. Matsumoto may be returning to Edo as well, so I should be fine. My whole body was shaking. I stared at Saito's deep dark blue eyes. His irises glowed from the lantern beside us, and he looked so longingly into mine in response. He closed his eyelids slowly, looking down.
I see.
As soon as those words spilled from his mouth, I braced myself for what I'd expected to be a painfully definitive end. I looked down before asking him a question. May I ask one more thing of you?
What is it?
What happened to Yamazaki after he got into where you were? Is that really the last thing you want to ask before you lose him forever? For a moment, Saito hesitated to answer. A flash of remorse was slapped across his face, and he silently shook his head. I could only muster a solitary tear as he gave me his wordless response. I knew I should have followed after him. The regrets that compiled throughout the evening were now starting to eat at me, but I had no reason to feel regretful. At this point, all I could do was leave the Shinsengumi as soon as possible, and pray that they could battle with a clear head now that I would no longer be there. Yeah, like I was the one clouding everybody's heads and distracting them all from their battles. Don't flatter yourself, Chizuru. Alright, let's go on to that bad ending. So what, we got 4 more? How many other of you guys are going to leave us to the demons in the end? In your so-called tragic love endings? Alright, continue that last one. And of course this time, go with Kazuma. No. There was no way I could allow Saito to become a fury, giving up his humanity just so he could protect me. Kazuma, I'll go with you, so please!
Interesting. So you agreed to become my bride, and you will submit yourself to me for all of eternity.
Yes, if you promise to keep your promise.
Fear not. A demon's word is unbreakable.
Kazuma was making his victorious declaration. Just then...
Yukimura, do you really have so little trust in me and the rest of the Shinsengumi?
It's not like that. But if you keep this up, you will really die, Saito.
No matter how slim the chance of victory may be, as long as I am given orders to protect you, I will protect you no matter what, even if it means I must die.
Saito popped the lid off the bottle, and he gulped the contents of it. And now we're skip. So my attempted sacrifice was in vain, and he turned himself into a fury anyway. Before I could finish his sentence, Kazuma had already begun charging at Saito at light speed. Even transformed, it seemed as though Saito could barely keep up with the weight of Kazuma's swings. It was clear who was stronger between the two. Saito was gasping for air, while Kazuma hardly looked like he was breaking a sweat. Eventually... Saito's sword in his left hand was hid away into the dirt, more than an arm's length away.
How sad. Despite possessing the water of life, this is the best attempt you could muster. But playtime is over now. Time to show my bride who she's coming home with.
Then the sword in Kazuma's hand was slashing straight for Saito's head. No! At this rate... Before I could even think about it, my body moved.
Yukimura!
Saito's shout pinged into my ear. Yet, as I regathered myself, I could feel something snap inside of me. Eventually, my arms and legs felt weak all of a sudden, and I collapsed to the ground.
What? How could a noble female demon risk her life for such a pathetic loser of a man? Yukimura, hang in there. Why? Why did you cover for me?
Saito's hands were cold to the touch, and I could feel them trembling upon my shoulders. He seemed so upset that someone he had sworn to protect had now returned the favor to him. But it's fine like this too, Saito. If I hadn't been here in the first place, then the Shinsengumi would have never been targeted by Kazuma and his men. So not true. Why do I always think myself so important in all this? I can't be with you guys anymore, but please, for me, continue down the path that matters to you most. And I don't get to see his face even in the end. That's it for our darling Saito. And, so yeah, in the next episode I'll go ahead and begin with Harada. Because like I said, really pretty much all the rest of the guys, I like them all the same. But, I'll mostly go along with the order that I originally played things in, so, you know, except for the fact that I already went out of order some, because I now have a truly established order of favorites. So next will be, yeah, like I said, next will be Harada, then I will do Okita, and then Hijikata, and then Heisuke. So, hope to see you there for that next episode to begin with Harada. And I'd be so grateful for any likes, comments, subscriptions, or shares with your friends to show some support. Thank you so much for joining me, and I wish you all health, happiness, and safety. Dirili signing out. Bye bye, everybody.